She let him sit at her table. In a crowded cafe, she had no idea he was a millionaire single father. Hello, everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It is quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. The morning rush had turned the small downtown cafe into a swirl of chatter, clinking mugs, and the rich scent of roasted coffee beans. Every seat was taken except one, a small corner table where Maya sat hunched over her sketchbook, her backpack at her feet, earbuds in, pretending she belonged in a world that seemed to move faster than she could keep up. The sleeves of her thrift store sweater were frayed, and her caramel hair was pulled into a messy bun. Her pencil traced lines of half-finished designs, dreams she might never finish if rent was late again. Outside, rain misted against the window. She looked up when the door chimed and a gust of cold air swept in. A tall man stepped inside, shaking water from his dark coat. His presence drew a few curious glances, something quiet, composed, but weary about him. He scanned the room, searching for an empty chair. There was none. Then his gaze fell on Maya's table. "Excuse me," he said, voice calm but tired. "Would you mind if I sit here? It seems like every seat is taken." Maya blinked, startled. Her instinct screamed to say no, she valued her solitude, but something in his tone disarmed her. Sure," she replied, pulling her backpack closer to make space. He nodded in gratitude and sat, setting down a paper cup and a leather notebook. For a moment, silence hung between them. She tried to focus on her drawing, but the awareness of him, his steady breathing, the faint scent of cedar and rain filled the air. He looked ordinary enough in his gray sweater and jeans, but his hands, clean and deliberate, betrayed someone used to responsibility. Maya finally glanced up. "Busy morning, huh?" she said, forcing a smile. He looked up, his eyes warm but distant. "You could say that." His phone buzzed. A small photo flashed across the screen before he quickly turned it over. She caught only a glimpse, a little girl, maybe 5 or 6, laughing at a park. Maya smiled softly. "Your daughter?" He hesitated, then nodded. "Yeah, Lily." He said the name with a tenderness that made her chest tighten. "She likes pancakes on Sundays." Maya's smile widened. "Good taste." He chuckled faintly, the first hint of life in his eyes. Then, as he reached for his cup, Maya's elbow brushed it. Coffee splashed across his notebook. "Oh my gosh, I am so sorry," she gasped, grabbing napkins. "I did not mean to." "It is fine," he said quickly, almost amused. "Happens to the best of us." She dabbed at the spill, cheeks burning, while he helped, their fingers accidentally touching. Something electric but unspoken passed between them, a flicker of familiarity neither could explain. "There," she said breathlessly, setting the napkin aside. "Crisis averted." "Thank you," he said, watching her with a small smile. He noticed the corner of her sketchbook, where a childlike drawing peeked out: a sun, a tree, 2 stick figures holding hands. "You draw?" "Trying to," she said. "For kids' books maybe one day." He nodded, a shadow flickering in his gaze. "You should," he murmured. "The world needs softer things." When he stood to leave, he glanced back once more. "Thank you for the seat," Maya smiled. "Any time." As he walked into the rain, she found a folded napkin he had left behind. On it, faint pencil lines formed a simple message. "Nice to meet you, Maya." Her fingers brushed over the words, and for reasons she could not name, her heart felt strangely full. Outside, the man exhaled under the drizzle, slipping the coffee-stained notebook into his bag. Inside was a small drawing, his daughter's latest picture of a family of 3. He whispered, almost to himself, "Maybe one day." The cafe door closed, and the morning crowd moved on, unaware that a simple act of kindness had just rewritten 2 destinies. The rain had stopped by the next morning, leaving the city glazed in a soft golden light that spilled across the cafe windows. Maya was already at her usual corner table, a steaming mug in front of her, sketchbook open but untouched. She kept glancing at the door every time it chimed, half expecting the tall stranger from yesterday to walk in again. He never did. Still, She could not stop thinking about him, the calm in his voice, the sadness hidden behind his smile, and the way he had said his daughter's name like it was the only thing keeping him alive. Daniel. She had seen the name written neatly on the napkin he left behind. For reasons she could not explain, she had folded that napkin and tucked it inside her sketchbook, between drawings of clouds and empty chairs. It felt like a secret she was not supposed to keep, yet could not let go of. Across town, Daniel sat in his car in the parking lot of Lily's elementary school, the hum of the engine blending with the chatter of children playing in the distance. His daughter's laughter echoed faintly through the window, and he smiled, that rare, fleeting expression that reached his tired eyes. It had been almost 2 years since his wife passed away. 2 years since laughter had filled their house. He had learned to live with silence, to hide pain behind business suits and board meetings, to focus on the company he built from nothing. But yesterday, in a crowded cafe, a stranger had offered him something he did not know. He missed simple kindness. He had not even meant to stop there. His meeting had been canceled last minute, and he needed somewhere quiet to breathe. The cafe had been full, and the girl Maya had looked up at him with startled eyes and moved her bag without question. That one gesture had stayed with him all night. He thought of her ink-stained fingers, her quick apology when she spilled the coffee, her laugh when she said, "Crisis averted." She was young, perhaps 10 years younger than him, but there was a calmness in her, a quiet resilience that reminded him of what life looked like before success turned every relationship into a transaction. A small voice called from the back seat. "Daddy?" Daniel turned and smiled. Lily sat strapped in her booster seat, clutching a stuffed rabbit. "Can we go get pancakes after school?" she asked. He nodded. "Of course, sweetheart," she grinned, the gap between her front teeth showing, and he felt his chest tighten with love. "Maybe we can go back to the cafe," she added. He froze for a moment, then smiled faintly. Maybe. Later that afternoon, Maya's shift at the art supply store dragged on longer than usual. She stacked boxes, rang up customers, and forced polite smiles while her mind drifted back to the cafe. Around 6 o'clock, the bell above the door jingled. She looked up and her breath caught. It was him. Daniel walked in, holding the hand of a little girl with curly brown hair and bright blue eyes. "Hi," Maya said, trying to sound casual, though her pulse quickened. Daniel smiled politely, as if surprised to see her. "Hey, you work here?" "Part-time," she replied, trying to keep up with student loans. The little girl peeked from behind her father's leg. "Daddy, is she your friend?" Daniel hesitated. "We met yesterday," he said softly. Maya crouched slightly to meet the child's gaze. "Hi there, what's your name?" "Lily," the girl said shyly. "That's a pretty name," Maya replied. "Do you like to draw, Lily?" The girl nodded eagerly. "I draw pancakes," she announced. Daniel laughed quietly, the sound warm and unfamiliar even to him. "She takes pancakes very seriously," he said. Maya chuckled. "Then you definitely need the right pencils. Come on, I'll show you the good ones." She led them down the aisle, Lily skipping beside her while Daniel followed. He watched the two of them, his daughter's easy joy, Maya's gentle patience, and felt something stir in him, something he had buried under layers of work and grief. When Lily proudly showed her a pack of bright-colored markers, Maya knelt and said, "Tell you what, you pick one set, and I'll draw something with you next time you visit. Deal?" Lily's eyes widened. "Deal," Daniel smiled, though part of him worried he was intruding on Maya's kindness. At the counter, she handed him the bag. "You know," she said, her voice soft, "I think your daughter has an artist's heart." "She gets that from her mother," he replied before he could stop himself. Maya hesitated, unsure if she should say more, then simply nodded. "She must have been wonderful." Daniel's expression softened. "She was." He cleared his throat and managed a polite smile. "Thank you for being kind." "Anytime," she said, echoing her own words from the cafe. When they left, Maya watched through the window as Lily tugged on her father's hand, pointing excitedly at the drawing on the shopping bag. Daniel looked down at her, smiled, and ruffled her hair. For the first time in years, the weight on his shoulders felt a little lighter. That night, Maya returned home to her small apartment, and placed the napkin he had written on beside her sketchbook. She looked at her latest drawing, a little girl holding her father's hand under a cafe awning. Rain, light, laughter. She did not know why she drew it, only that it felt right. Somewhere across town, Daniel tucked Lily into bed, her new markers scattered across the blanket. She had drawn a woman sitting at a cafe table. "Who is that, sweetheart?" he asked. Lily smiled sleepily. "The nice lady from the store." She smiled like Mommy used to. Daniel stood there for a long moment after turning off the lamp, staring at the small drawing taped to the wall. Then he whispered to himself, "Maybe one day." Outside, the city lights blinked against the night sky. Two strangers separated by distance but connected by the simplest act, a seat at a crowded cafe. The next morning, the cafe was as crowded as ever, filled with the familiar hum of conversation and the soft hiss of the espresso machine. Maya balanced 2 trays of steaming drinks as she weaved between tables, her apron dusted with flour from the morning's pastries. She had picked up an extra shift, grateful for the hours, even if her legs ached. As she wiped down the counter, the bell above the door chimed, and her heart skipped before she could stop herself. It was him. Daniel stood there in his gray coat, holding Lily's small hand. The child's curls bounced as she looked around the cafe with wide eyes. "This place smells like pancakes," Lily said, giggling. "You and your pancakes," Daniel teased softly, brushing a curl from her face. Maya smiled from behind the counter before catching herself. She poured a cup of coffee, pretending not to stare. Daniel approached, his eyes lighting up with recognition. "You work here too?" he asked, half surprised, half amused. "Apparently, I live here," she said, laughing nervously. "What can I get you?" "2 hot chocolates," he said, glancing down at Lily. "And maybe one of those muffins she's been eyeing since we walked in." Lily grinned as Maya slid the treats across the counter. "You have excellent taste, Lily," she said playfully. "That one's my favorite too." Daniel paid, and Maya handed him the change, their fingers brushing again. He hesitated for a moment, wanting to say more, but the cafe was too busy. They found a seat near the window, and Maya returned to her work. Still, her gaze wandered back to them more times than she would admit. Lily was drawing on a napkin with crayons, tongue peeking from the corner of her mouth, while Daniel watched with quiet affection. Something about that sight made Maya's chest ache, the simplicity of it, the warmth she missed since her own parents had passed. Near noon, the crowd thinned. Daniel carried the empty mugs to the counter. "Thank you," he said, his voice soft but sincere. "You made her morning." "She made mine," Maya replied, nodding toward Lily, who was now showing her drawing to another barista. "She's a bright kid." Daniel smiled, the kind that reached his eyes this time. "Yeah, she is. She keeps me sane." "Parenthood looks good on you," Maya said before realizing how personal it sounded. Her cheeks flushed. "I mean, you seem like a good dad," Daniel chuckled. "I try. It is a full-time job, one I did not know how to do alone at first." Maya tilted her head, curiosity flickering. "You are doing fine," she said gently. "Lily looks happy." Daniel nodded, his gaze lowering. "She is getting there." The words carried a shadow that hung in the air between them, something unspoken but heavy. Maya did not press. He left a generous tip on the counter and walked back to his daughter. As they headed out, Lily waved her little hand. "Bye, Maya." "See you soon, sweetheart," Maya called, smiling. When the door closed, she stood there for a moment, longer than she should have, the warmth of their presence lingering like sunlight after rain. That night, she returned to her small apartment and pulled out her sketchbook. Between doodles of cafe tables and warm lights, she began to draw them, the father and daughter at the window, sharing cocoa. She titled it, "The Quiet Table." Across the city, Daniel sat at his kitchen table while Lily colored beside him. He glanced at her drawing this time. It was 3 figures: Lily, her father, and a woman with long hair holding a cup of coffee. "Who is that?" he asked lightly. Lily looked up. "Maya. She smiles like Mommy used to." Daniel's breath caught. "She does, huh?" Lily nodded, content, and returned to her colors. Daniel leaned back, the ghost of a smile on his face. He could not deny the strange comfort he felt in Maya's presence, or how natural it had been to see her with his daughter. But he reminded himself it was nothing more than kindness from a stranger. He had learned not to hope for more. The next day, fate decided otherwise. It was raining again, and Daniel had forgotten his umbrella. When he stepped into the cafe, drenched and breathless, Maya laughed softly from behind the counter. "Rough morning?" "You could say that," he said, shaking out his coat. "One of those days where the universe tests your patience." "Well, the universe owes you a dry seat and a hot drink," she said, handing him a cup before he could order. "On the house," he blinked. "You do not have to—" "I know," she interrupted gently, "but I want to." He smiled, that same tired, grateful smile that had first caught her heart. "Thank you." They talked for a while as the rain hammered against the glass. Maya told him about her dream of illustrating children's books, and Daniel listened, fascinated. He had spent years surrounded by people who spoke in profits and percentages. Hearing someone speak of art and imagination felt like breathing fresh air. "You know," he said quietly, "I work in design. Maybe I could help you someday." She raised an eyebrow. "Design? Like logos and stuff?" "Something like that," he said with a faint grin, avoiding the truth. "We will see." As he left, she tucked another napkin into his bag without him noticing. On it, she had drawn a steaming cup with a little heart floating above it, and the words, "For rainy days." Hours later, when he found it, Daniel smiled for the first time in weeks. He placed the napkin in the same pocket as the old one she had written on before. Somewhere deep inside, he knew this was more than coincidence. It was a quiet beginning, one cup, one smile, one chance meeting at a time. The next Saturday morning arrived wrapped in soft sunlight and the faint chill of early spring. The cafe buzzed with weekend warmth, filled with families, couples, and the scent of cinnamon and fresh espresso. Maya balanced 2 trays at once, moving through the aisles with practiced ease. She had grown used to seeing Daniel and Lily come by now, though she never admitted to herself that she waited for them. Every time the bell above the door chimed, she glanced up, half hoping it was them. And today, it was. Daniel entered wearing a navy sweater and that same calm smile, holding Lily's tiny hand. The little girl wore a pink raincoat even though the sky was clear. "Look, Daddy," Lily whispered excitedly. "She's here again." Maya waved as they approached the counter. "Good morning, my favorite pancake expert," she teased Lily, who giggled and leaned on the counter. "Morning, Maya," Daniel said. "You're starting to make this our Saturday tradition." "I can live with that," she said, pouring his coffee. "2 hot chocolates, right?" "You remembered," he replied, genuinely surprised. "Of course. I remember all the nice people," she said, handing him the drinks. He smiled, and something in that moment felt effortless, like 2 old friends who had always known each other. They found their usual table by the window, sunlight spilling across the surface like a quiet blessing. Lily pulled out her crayons and sketchbook, while Daniel read emails on his phone. But after a few minutes, he caught himself watching Maya more than the screen. The way she laughed with customers. The way she tucked a strand of hair behind her ear when she concentrated it was simple, but it grounded him. He had not felt this kind of peace in a long time. After finishing her shift, Maya stepped outside to take a break. She found Daniel and Lily sitting on the bench just outside the cafe, sharing a blueberry muffin. Lily was giggling about something, her face smeared with crumbs. "You 2 look like you're having the best breakfast in town," Maya said, sitting on the other end of the bench. "We saved you a piece," Daniel said, offering half the muffin. "You did not have to," she replied. But her smile gave her away. "We wanted to," Lily said proudly. "Daddy says good people deserve good muffins." Maya laughed softly. "Then I am honored." They sat together for a while, talking about small things, the weather, Lily's favorite cartoons, and Maya's art school. Daniel listened more than he spoke, but every so often, he would say something that made Maya pause. There was depth in him, a quiet intelligence and kindness she could not ignore. When Lily ran off a few feet away to look at a butterfly, Maya leaned closer and asked, "Can I ask you something?" Daniel nodded. "Sure. Why do you always seem sad, even when you smile?" He hesitated, caught off guard. No one had asked him that in years. He stared at his coffee for a moment, then said quietly, "Because sometimes happiness feels borrowed, like it belongs to someone else." Maya's heart softened. Maybe it doesn't have to be. Maybe it's just waiting for you to notice it again. He looked at her then, really looked, and something shifted in his eyes, a flicker of hope, fragile but real. Lily came running back with a yellow flower in her hand. "Look, Daddy, it is pretty like Mommy used to like." Daniel froze, but Maya reached out, touching the little girl's shoulder gently. "That is beautiful, Lily. I am sure she would love it." Lily smiled and tucked the flower into her father's pocket. Daniel met Maya's gaze, silent gratitude in his eyes. Later that afternoon, they walked together toward the park. Lily ran ahead chasing bubbles from a street vendor while Daniel and Maya followed behind. "You are good with her," he said softly. "She likes you." "She is easy to like," Maya replied. "So are you," he chuckled. "You don't know me well enough to say that." "Maybe not," she said. "But sometimes you don't need to know everything to feel something." For a moment, he could not think of a reply. The sound of Lily's laughter echoed between them, and it felt like sunlight cutting through clouds. As the afternoon faded into gold, Daniel offered to drive Maya home. She hesitated but agreed. In the car, the hum of the engine filled the comfortable silence. Lily had fallen asleep in the back seat, her small head resting against a stuffed rabbit. "Thank you for today," Maya said quietly. "I have not had such a peaceful day in a long time." Daniel nodded. "Neither have I." When he pulled up to her street, she turned to him. "You know," she said softly, "I think you are stronger than you realize." He looked at her, puzzled. "What makes you say that?" "Because broken people don't bring this much light to others," she said. He smiled, but there was a hint of emotion in it. "You give me too much credit." "I don't think so," she said. For a few seconds, they just looked at each other, caught in that quiet, undeniable gravity that happens when two hearts recognize the same kind of loneliness. Then Lily stirred in the back seat, and the spell broke. Maya smiled. "Good night, Daniel." "Good night, Maya." She stepped out into the cool evening air, waving once before walking up the stairs to her apartment. Daniel watched until the door closed, then looked at his daughter sleeping peacefully. He whispered, "Maybe happiness is not borrowed after all." The city lights shimmered through the windshield, and for the first time in a long time, he drove home with a smile that did not feel like pretending. Monday morning came with the sound of traffic outside Maya's small apartment, and the soft drizzle that had become part of the city's rhythm. She poured herself a cup of coffee and glanced at her phone. There were no new messages, no missed calls, nothing out of the ordinary. Yet her heart ached with a strange emptiness. Over the weekend, Daniel and Lily had become a quiet constant in her life, their laughter echoing in her thoughts like a song she could not forget. She told herself not to read too much into it. They were just kind people, and she was just a girl who had given a stranger a seat at her table. Still, she found herself sketching again that morning, Lily chasing bubbles, Daniel watching from a bench, the light falling across their faces. When she looked at the drawing, she smiled without meaning to. Across the city, Daniel sat in his office at Carter Design Group, a sleek glass building overlooking the skyline. He wore a crisp white shirt and navy tie, the image of calm authority. But beneath the polished surface, he was distracted. His assistant, Claire, noticed immediately. "Sir, you've been staring at the same report for 10 minutes, she said gently. He blinked. "Have I?" "Yes," she replied with a small smile. "You usually stare for only 5. Daniel laughed under his breath. "I guess I am off my game today." "Family matters?" she asked, half teasing. "Something like that," he said, closing the file. "Actually, someone." Claire raised an eyebrow. "Someone new?" He nodded. "Maybe. She is different." "Different good or different dangerous?" "Both," he admitted, surprising even himself. That afternoon, a meeting took him near the café. On impulse, he stopped by. The place was busier than usual, full of students and the low hum of conversation. Maya was behind the counter, her hair tied back, flower on her cheek. When she saw him, her eyes widened, then softened. "You again," she said with a smile. "I could say the same," he replied. "You always seem to appear when I need caffeine." "Then I must be doing my job right," she teased. He ordered coffee and a muffin for Lily, even though Lily was not with him. "She has art class today," he explained. "She wanted to show you her drawing next time." "Tell her I can't wait," Maya said warmly. As she handed him his drink, she noticed something on his wrist, A small child's bracelet, pink and beaded. That is cute, she said. Lily made it for me, he said, glancing at it. She says it keeps me from being too serious. Does it work? Not yet, he said, smiling. For a while, they talked, light conversation that somehow felt like something more. He told her about his favorite books, and she told him about the art exhibit she wanted to visit one day but could never afford. When a customer interrupted, Daniel stepped aside, but before leaving, he pulled a folded napkin from his pocket. I owe you one, he said, setting it on the counter. For the coffee that day. Consider this a trade. When she unfolded it later, she found a small sketch of a chair with a single flower on it, and the words, "For the one who made room." She stared at it for a long time, her chest tight with emotion. That evening, Daniel and Lily were at home cooking dinner, or trying to. Lily had insisted on pancakes for dinner again, and the kitchen was a delightful mess of flour, eggs, and laughter. "Daddy, you are not good at flipping," she said, giggling. "I am learning," he said, pretending to pout. "Good thing I have the best teacher." When they sat down to eat, Lily looked up and asked, "Daddy, can we invite Maya to dinner one day?" Daniel almost dropped his fork. "Maya?" "Yes," Lily said confidently. "She makes you smile. You do not smile like that with anyone else." He chuckled, touched, and a little unsettled. "Maybe one day," he said softly. After Lily went to bed, Daniel sat on the couch, staring at the framed photo of his late wife on the mantel. "You would like her," he whispered. "She is kind." The house was quiet, but not empty. For the first time since the funeral, it felt alive again. The next morning, the sun broke through the gray clouds. Maya was setting up tables when she noticed something new outside the cafe window, a man sitting alone with a sketchbook open, sunlight catching in his dark hair. It was Daniel. He waved when he saw her and gestured toward an empty chair. "Mind if I sit here?" he asked with a playful grin. She laughed, remembering their first meeting. "Only if you promise not to spill coffee this time." "Deal," he said, sliding into the seat. They talked for nearly an hour, their conversation flowing like they had known each other for years. He told her about his daughter's new art obsession, and she told him about the children's book idea she had started sketching. "It is about a girl who teaches a sad king how to smile again," she said. "That sounds familiar," he teased. "Maybe," she said softly, meeting his gaze. The moment lingered, warm and unspoken. When Daniel finally left, Maya found herself smiling so wide her coworkers noticed. "Who was that?" one of them asked. "Just someone who needed a seat once," she said quietly. But deep down, she knew it was already more than that. Across town, Daniel picked up Lily from school. She climbed into the back seat and handed him a drawing, 3 figures sitting at a cafe table. "Who are they?" he asked. Lily grinned. "You, me, and Maya." He stared at the picture for a moment, speechless. "Do you think she would like it?" Lily asked. "I think she already does," he said, tucking the drawing carefully into his coat pocket next to the napkin Maya had given him. As they drove off, sunlight poured through the windshield, and for the first time in years, Daniel Carter felt like life was giving him a second chance. Saturday morning returned with its familiar warmth and the sound of chatter spilling onto the street outside the cafe. The air smelled of cinnamon, roasted beans, and the faint sweetness of maple syrup. Maya arranged fresh flowers in a small vase at the counter, humming quietly to herself. It had been a long week, filled with extra shifts and late-night sketches, but somehow, she felt lighter these days. She knew why. Daniel and Lily had become part of her routine in a way that felt effortless. Their visits were never planned, but they always seemed to arrive when she needed a reminder that the world could still be kind. When the bell chimed, her heart reacted before her mind did. Daniel stepped in, holding Lily's hand, both smiling in that soft, familiar way that made the world seem a little gentler. "You are early today," Maya said, pretending to sound casual, as she handed him 2 mugs before he could even ask. "Special order for my favorite regulars." "We might have to start paying rent here," Daniel teased. "If it includes muffins, I will sign the lease," she said, laughing. Lily tugged on her apron. "Maya, guess what?" "What, sweetheart?" "I won an art contest at school. the girl announced proudly, holding out a paper covered in bright colors. It was a drawing of 3 people, 2 adults, and 1 child sitting together under a cafe sign. Maya's throat tightened. "Lily, that is beautiful," she said, her voice soft. "You are amazing." "Daddy helped me with the clouds," Lily said proudly. "He said they should look like hope." Maya looked at Daniel, and their eyes met for a second longer than it should have been. "That sounds exactly like something he would say," she replied, her cheeks warm. They spent the morning in comfortable conversation. Maya told Lily about her dream of making a children's picture book, and Lily insisted that she should illustrate one about pancakes and butterflies. Daniel listened, smiling at the sound of their laughter. It was contagious, the kind of joy he had forgotten how to feel. When the crowd thinned, he walked up to the counter to pay. "You know," he said quietly, "I have been thinking. Lily's school is hosting an art fair next weekend. She would love for you to come." Maya blinked. "Me? Are you sure?" "Absolutely," he said. "She has not stopped talking about you. It would mean a lot to her. And to me." Maya hesitated, feeling a flutter in her chest she could not quite name. "I would love to," she said finally. "Count me in." "Good," he said with a small, satisfied smile. "It is a date." Then he quickly corrected himself. "I mean, it is a day. Saturday. Noon." She laughed at his awkward recovery, but inside, something warm unfolded. As the week passed, Maya found herself preparing for that day, like it was something more than a simple school event. She bought a small set of colored pencils as a gift for Lily, and even pressed her favorite dress for the occasion. On the morning of the fair, the weather was perfect blue skies, sunlight streaming through clouds. She arrived early, her heart racing. The schoolyard buzzed with parents and children, tables covered in artwork. Daniel waved from across the crowd, looking surprisingly relaxed in a rolled-up shirt and jeans. Lily ran to Maya, hugging her legs. "You came!" "Of course I did," Maya said, kneeling to her level. "I would not miss this for the world." Lily led her to a table filled with drawings, proudly pointing out hers. "See? That one is my favorite." It was a picture of 3 people again, this time holding hands under a rainbow. Daniel walked up beside them. "She drew that last night," he said softly. "Said it was about family." Maya's heart clenched. "She is very talented," she whispered. "She gets it from you." "Maybe she gets it from both of us," he said, smiling. For a while they stood there, watching Lily run around with other kids, her laughter carrying through the air like sunlight. "You know," Maya said after a pause, "I have never seen her this happy." "Neither have I," Daniel admitted. "You have something to do with that." "Me?" "Yes," he said simply. "Since you walked into our lives, she smiles more. And so do I." Maya looked down, trying to hide the flush creeping up her neck. "You are giving me too much credit." "I do not think so," he said quietly. A group of parents passed by, breaking the moment. Lily returned with a ribbon in her hand. "We won 2nd place," she shouted. "That means pancakes for dinner, right, Daddy?" Daniel laughed, scooping her into his arms. "That is the rule." Maya smiled, watching them, feeling an ache she could not name, something between joy and longing. Later that evening, after the fair ended, Daniel offered to drive her home again. The sunset painted the sky in shades of pink and gold as they drove through quiet streets. Lily slept in the back seat, clutching her ribbon. "You know," Daniel said softly, "it has been a long time since I have felt like today." "Like what?" Maya asked. "Like life could be beautiful again." She looked at him, her voice barely above a whisper. "Maybe it always was. You just needed someone to remind you." Their eyes met, and for a moment, the world outside disappeared. Then Lily stirred in her sleep, and they both smiled, the spell broken but not forgotten. When he dropped her off, Maya lingered by the car door. "Thank you for letting me be part of her day," she said. "Thank you for being part of it," he replied. As she walked up to her apartment, Daniel watched her go, realizing that the feeling growing inside him was no longer confusion or guilt. It was something else, something real. He looked at his daughter's sleeping face in the mirror and whispered, "Maybe this is what new beginnings look like." And as the city lights flickered on around them, Daniel Carter drove home with the quiet certainty that his life was slowly changing, one ordinary Saturday at a time. The next week drifted by softly, like a song that played in the background of their lives. The mornings at the cafe were brighter now, not because of the sunlight that filtered through the windows, but because of the laughter that followed whenever Daniel and Lily walked in. They had become a fixture in Maya's days, a rhythm she looked forward to without even realizing it. Each visit began the same way: 2 hot chocolates, 1 coffee, 1 muffin, and ended with quiet conversations that lingered longer than they should. That Tuesday afternoon, Daniel arrived without Lily for the first time. Maya noticed immediately, her smile softening with concern. "Where's my little artist today?" she asked as she handed him his usual order. "At home," Daniel said with a tired smile. "She caught a mild cold. Nothing serious. The doctor said it is just the weather changing." "Poor thing," Maya said, her voice warm. "She'll be okay. Pancakes and cartoons cure everything." Daniel chuckled. "That is exactly what she told me this morning." He took a sip of his coffee, then looked at Maya over the rim of the cup. "I think she misses you already. She asked if I could bring you her drawing." He pulled a folded piece of paper from his jacket pocket and handed it to her. Maya opened it carefully. It was another sketch of 3 people, Lily in the middle, her father on one side, and Maya on the other. Above them, a bright sun and a little heart floated between 2 clouds. Maya stared at it, her chest tightening. "She drew this?" "Last night," Daniel said quietly. "She said it is her favorite picture so far." Maya ran her fingers over the crayon marks, smiling softly. "She is too sweet. She is honest," Daniel said. "She draws what she feels." There was a pause, gentle but charged. "She is not the only one," Maya said before she could stop herself. Daniel's eyes softened, and for a second, neither of them moved. Then a customer called her name, and the spell broke. She tucked the drawing into her apron pocket, but her heart carried it the rest of the day. Later that evening, rain began to fall again, painting the city in silver streaks. Maya's shift ended late, and as she stepped outside, she found Daniel waiting near the door, holding an umbrella. "You will catch a cold," he said, smiling. "I was driving by and saw you locking up." "You didn't have to do that," she said, but she was already stepping under the umbrella. "I know," he replied. "I wanted to." They walked together down the quiet street, the rain tapping softly above them. The sidewalks shimmered under the lamplight, puddles reflecting their shadows side by side. "How is Lily?" Maya asked. "Better," he said. "She wanted to draw you a get, well card, even though you are not the one who is sick." Maya laughed softly. "That sounds like her. She has been happier lately," Daniel continued. "She used to draw a lot of clouds after her mom passed away, gray ones. But now there is color again. You gave that back to her." "I think she already had it inside," Maya said gently. She just needed someone to remind her. "Maybe we both did," he said, his voice lower now, the warmth in it unmistakable. They stopped at the corner where their paths usually split. For a moment, neither wanted to move. "Thank you for walking me," Maya said, brushing a strand of wet hair from her face. "Thank you for letting me," he replied. The silence stretched, full of something new, something fragile but real. He looked like he wanted to say more, but instead he reached into his coat pocket and handed her another folded napkin. "From Lily," he said. "She wanted me to give you this." Maya unfolded it. Inside was a small drawing of 3 stick figures holding hands, standing under a big heart. The words, "My family," were written in uneven letters. Maya's breath caught. "She thinks of me as—" "She does," Daniel said softly, "and I do not think she is wrong." Her eyes met his, wide and uncertain, but before either could speak, a car horn sounded nearby. The moment slipped away like the rain around them. "Good night, Daniel," she said quietly. "Good night, Maya." He watched her walk away, the umbrella tilting slightly above her, her figure fading into the soft glow of the streetlights. When he got home, Lily was already asleep, curled up with her stuffed rabbit. He stood by her bedside, brushing a curl from her forehead. On the nightstand was a small note in crayon. "Maya makes Daddy smile." He closed his eyes, overwhelmed by something he could not name. Over the next few days, their connection deepened in quiet ways, a shared laugh over spilled sugar, a message about Lily's latest drawing, a late coffee brought to Maya's counter after her shift. Every gesture, no matter how small, carried weight. It was no longer coincidence, it was care. One evening, Maya found herself sketching again, the image forming almost on its own, Daniel and Lily under the same umbrella, smiling. She added a third figure beside them, her own, with the words, "Home feels like this." Across the city, Daniel sat on his porch, looking at the rain. He took out his wallet, unfolding the napkin. Maya had once written on the very first one. The ink had faded, but the words were still clear. "Hope your day gets better." He whispered to himself. It did. The rain kept falling, steady and rhythmic, as two lives continued to move closer together, drawn by kindness, anchored by something that no longer felt like chance, but the beginning of something meant to be. The following Saturday morning unfolded, with a warmth that seemed to mirror the rhythm of their hearts. The cafe was bustling as always, yet everything felt softer somehow. The world filtered through a quiet glow that made ordinary moments feel extraordinary. Maya was wiping down a table near the window when the familiar sound of the bell echoed. She looked up instinctively, and there they were, Daniel and Lily, hand in hand, faces bright with that familiar blend of calm and joy. "There's our favorite artist," Maya greeted with a smile, crouching to Lily's level. "Are you feeling better, sweetheart?" "All better," Lily said proudly, showing off a bandage on her hand as if it were a trophy. "Daddy says pancakes made the germs scared." "Smart Daddy," Maya laughed, glancing at Daniel. "She's learning from the best." "I doubt that," he said, his eyes warm. "She's learning from you now." They found their usual spot by the window, sunlight falling over them like a quiet halo. Daniel ordered the same as always, 2 hot chocolates and 1 coffee, and Maya brought them over, her heart fluttering in that familiar way every time their fingers brushed. Lily was busy drawing something on her sketch pad, her tongue sticking out in concentration. Maya leaned closer. "What are you making this time?" "A surprise," Lily said mysteriously. "You'll see later." "I'll wait," Maya said with a grin. Daniel watched them both, his chest tightening with something he had not felt in years, a quiet peace that came from belonging. For the first time since his wife's passing, he was not haunted by guilt or silence. Instead, he felt present, grounded in this small but beautiful corner of life. "You know," he said softly, "Lily's teacher said her drawings have changed. Brighter colors, happier faces. I think I owe you some of that." "You owe me nothing," Maya replied gently. "I just gave her what she already had inside her," he smiled. "Maybe, but still, thank you." She shrugged, trying to hide her blush. "You are welcome." After the morning rush faded, Maya finally took her break. Daniel was still there, reading while Lily drew. Maya sat down across from them, cradling her mug of tea. "So," she said teasingly, "does the mysterious artist plan to show me the masterpiece?" "Not yet," Lily said, giggling. "You have to close your eyes first." Maya obeyed. She heard the soft rustle of paper, then Lily's excited whisper. "Okay, open." Maya opened her eyes and gasped softly. The drawing showed 3 people standing together under a banner that read, "Family." The figures were smiling, holding hands, surrounded by sunshine. "Lily, this is beautiful," she whispered. "That's you, Daddy, and me," the girl said proudly. "Because we are a family now," Maya's breath caught. She looked at Daniel, who froze, clearly taken aback by his daughter's words. For a heartbeat, the air between them shifted, filled with warmth, confusion, and something tender. Daniel reached over and touched Lily's hair. "That's very special, sweetheart," he said softly. "I love it." Maya blinked quickly, holding back tears. "I love it too." The little girl beamed, unaware of how deeply her innocent declaration had struck them both. For the rest of the afternoon, Maya felt the image replay in her mind, the word family, written in bright purple letters. It lingered like a whisper she could not ignore. As the day wound down, Daniel walked Maya to the door again, while Lily skipped ahead with her drawing in hand. "She really sees you as part of her world now," he said quietly. "And you?" Maya asked softly, searching his face. "What do you see me as?" Daniel hesitated, his voice barely above a whisper. "Someone who makes everything feel less heavy." Her heart ached in the best way possible. "You make things feel lighter for me too," she said. For a moment, they stood close enough to hear each other breathe. the city noise fading behind the sound of their quiet connection. Then Lily turned around and called, "Come on, Daddy! You walk too slow!" They both laughed, stepping apart. "See you soon?" Daniel asked. "You know where to find me," Maya said with a smile. Over the following days, their small world grew richer. Maya began visiting Daniel and Lily outside the cafe, helping with art projects, joining them for afternoon walks, even teaching Lily how to make homemade hot chocolate. The walls Daniel had built around his heart started to crumble, replaced by laughter and little moments that made the house feel like home again. One evening, as they all sat in the living room coloring together, Lily looked up and said, "Daddy, can Maya stay for pancakes?" Daniel smiled at Maya, a spark of something playful in his eyes. "I think we can make that happen." They cooked together in the cozy kitchen, the air filled with the smell of vanilla and butter. Maya flipped pancakes while Daniel poured syrup, and Lily sang off-key to a song from the radio. It was chaos, but it was perfect. As they sat at the table, sharing food and laughter, Maya caught Daniel's gaze across the flickering candlelight. For a moment, it felt like time slowed. The world outside ceased to exist. Daniel raised his cup slightly, as if to make a quiet toast. "Two small miracles," he said. "Two second chances," Maya added softly. Lily giggled, holding up her glass of milk. "To pancakes." The three of them laughed, their voices blending in the warmth of the kitchen. Later, after Lily fell asleep, Daniel walked Maya to the door. "Thank you," he said quietly, "for tonight, for everything." "You don't have to thank me," she said. "I think we're both helping each other heal." He looked at her, his voice low. "Maybe that's what family really means." She smiled, her eyes shining. "Maybe it is." When she left, Daniel stood by the window, watching her walk down the quiet street. In his chest, something new took root, not just gratitude or fondness, but something deeper. Love, real and terrifying, the kind he thought he would never feel again. And as the night settled around the house, Lily stirred in her sleep, murmuring one word, "Maya." Daniel smiled in the dark, whispering, "Yes, sweetheart." Maya. The next morning began quietly, sunlight pouring through Maya's window in soft golden streaks. She woke up smiling before she even realized why. The memory of last night lingered in her mind, Daniel's warm laugh, Lily's sleepy joy, the way the small kitchen had felt like home for the first time in years. She had gone home with her heart full and her steps light, unaware that life was slowly weaving something deeper between them. Across town, Daniel sat at the breakfast table. Lily perched beside him, still wearing her pink pajamas. Pancake crumbs dotted her plate, and she was coloring another picture. "Is that another masterpiece?" Daniel asked, sipping his coffee. Lily nodded proudly. "It is you, me, and Maya at the park. I added clouds, shaped like hearts." He chuckled. "You think she will like it?" "She will love it," Lily said confidently. "Can we see her today?" Daniel hesitated. "Maybe later, sweetheart. She has work." But deep down, he wanted to see Maya just as much as his daughter did. That afternoon, Maya's shift at the cafe was unusually busy. Tourists filled every table, orders piled up, and the espresso machine hissed like it was alive. Still, in the middle of all that chaos, she caught herself glancing toward the door every few minutes, expecting Daniel and Lily to appear. They did not. By the time the crowd thinned, the sky outside had turned gray. She felt a strange loneliness she had not known she could feel, for someone she technically barely knew. As she wiped down the counter, her coworker Leah nudged her playfully. "You have that look again," Leah teased. "What look?" Maya asked, feigning ignorance. "The look of someone thinking about a man who orders the same coffee every time." Maya laughed, shaking her head. "You are imagining things." "Am I?" Leah said, grinning. "Because I have seen how you light up when he walks in. And that little girl adorable. You fit right in with them, you know." The words made Maya pause. She wanted to deny it, but deep down, she knew Leah was right. That evening, as she was closing up, she heard the bell chime. She looked up and saw Daniel standing there, rein on his shoulders, holding a small box. "Hey," he said softly. "I hope I am not too late." "You are just in time," she said with a smile. "Everything okay?" "Everything is perfect," he said, setting the box on the counter. "Lily made something for you." Maya opened the box carefully. Inside was a small bracelet made of colorful beads spelling out her name. "She wanted to thank you for teaching her how to draw pancakes," Daniel said, his voice warm. "She said you are her favorite grown-up." Maya laughed softly, touched beyond words. "This is the sweetest thing anyone has ever given me." She wanted to bring it herself, but it is bedtime, he said. So I promised I would deliver it. "You are a good dad," she said. "She is lucky to have you." He smiled faintly. "I think I am the lucky one." For a long moment, they just looked at each other, the cafe quiet around them, the rain pattering softly outside. There was no need for words. Everything that mattered was already understood. "Would you like to sit for a bit?" Maya asked finally. "I was just about to make tea." Daniel nodded, removing his coat. "I would love to." They sat by the window, 2 mugs between them, the world outside wrapped in silver rain. They talked about small things, music, childhood memories, the city. The conversation flowed effortlessly, full of quiet laughter and long glances. "You ever think about how random life is?" Maya asked at one point. "How one small moment can change everything?" "Every day," he said. "If I had not walked into that cafe that morning, if you had not let me sit down, you might have found another seat," she said. "No," he said, shaking his head. "Not that seat, not you." She smiled, her heart catching in her chest. The clock ticked softly in the background, but neither of them wanted the night to end. When Daniel finally stood to leave, he hesitated by the door. "Maya," he said quietly, "I know we come from different worlds, but when I am with you, it does not feel that way." "That is because kindness does not have a world," she said gently. "It just finds its place." He looked at her for a long second, then nodded. "You always know the right thing to say." "That is because you listen," she replied. He smiled, then leaned forward slightly, brushing a raindrop from her cheek. "Good night, Maya." "Good night, Daniel." When he stepped out into the rain, she watched from the window as he disappeared into the soft blur of city lights. Her reflection looked back at her in the glass, hopeful, scared, alive. Later that night, she placed the beaded bracelet beside the folded napkin Daniel had once left behind. They sat side by side, 2 small tokens of something that felt bigger than either of them could explain. Across town, Daniel returned home to find Lily asleep with her sketchbook open beside her. On the page, she had drawn 3 figures again, this time holding umbrellas under a rainy sky. Above them, in shaky letters, she had written, "Together is my favorite place." Daniel smiled, his eyes misty. He whispered softly, "Mine too, sweetheart. Mine too." The rain outside deepened into a steady rhythm, washing the world clean, while in 2 small apartments, 2 hearts beat quietly in sync, unspoken, unseen, but undeniably connected. Sunday arrived wrapped in golden light, soft and slow, the kind of morning that made the city seem gentler. Maya woke early, the sound of church bells echoing faintly through her window. She sat at her small kitchen table, sketchbook open, trying to capture the memory of the night before, the way Daniel had brushed the raindrop from her cheek, the way his voice had carried her name like it was fragile and precious. She drew 3 umbrellas under the rain, one slightly tilted toward another, and smiled at the simple beauty of it. Across town, Daniel was standing in his kitchen, pouring batter into a skillet while Lily danced barefoot around the table. "You are burning them again," she announced, giggling. He laughed, flipping the pancake too late. "I guess I need my assistant's help." Lily climbed onto a stool and handed him the spatula. "Maya says pancakes need patience." "She is right," he said softly, unable to stop smiling at the sound of her name. After breakfast, Lily ran off to her room, and Daniel found himself staring at his phone. He wanted to call Maya, to ask if she wanted to join them for the park or lunch, but hesitation lingered. He was not used to this, the vulnerability of wanting someone, the fear of misstep. Finally, he typed a message. "Coffee later?" He deleted it, then rewrote it. Before he could send it, his phone buzzed. A new message appeared from Maya. "I was thinking of making pancakes. Guess who taught me?" He grinned and replied, "She has good taste. We are having pancakes too. Come join us." She sent a single word back, "Really?" He hesitated, then typed, "Really. Bring your sketchbook." An hour later, Maya stood outside his house, holding a small box of strawberries. She took a deep breath before ringing the doorbell. Lily answered, her face lighting up. "Maya?" she squealed, throwing her arms around her legs. "You came?" Daniel appeared behind her, casual in jeans and a plain white shirt, smiling that soft, careful smile she had come to know. "Welcome," he said, stepping aside. "I hope you are ready for the most uneven pancakes in America." "Those are my favorite kind," she said, laughing. Inside, the house felt warm and lived in children's drawings taped to the refrigerator, the faint smell of vanilla in the air, sunlight spilling across the hardwood floor. It was not grand or cold, like she had imagined a millionaire's home might be. It was cozy, imperfect, human. They spent the morning cooking together, laughter filling the kitchen. Lily insisted on teaching Maya her secret pancake flip, which mostly resulted in flour on everyone's faces. Daniel stood back, watching them, his heart swelling at how naturally they fit together. After lunch, they sat in the backyard, the sun glowing through the leaves. Lily played nearby while Maya sketched quietly, her hair catching the light. Daniel leaned back in his chair, content. "You look peaceful," she said, noticing his relaxed expression. "I think I forgot what peaceful felt like," he admitted. "You remind me." "That is funny," she said, glancing at her drawing. "Because you remind me of stability. I have been running for so long, trying to prove I can stand on my own. But around you, it feels okay to stop." He looked at her then, something unspoken passing between them, warm and dangerous. Before either could say more, Lily came running over, holding a handful of dandelions. "Make a wish," she said, handing one to each of them. "You have to blow it at the same time." They smiled and did as she said, the tiny seeds floating through the air like glittering promises. "What did you wish for?" Lily asked eagerly. Maya laughed. "If I tell you, it will not come true," Daniel said. "I wished for more days like this." "Me too," Lily shouted. The afternoon stretched softly, the kind of time you do not notice until it is gone. As the sun began to dip, Maya stood to leave. "Thank you for today," she said. "I do not think I have laughed this much in years." "You should laugh more often," Daniel said. "It suits you." "Then I guess I will need reasons to," she said, smiling. "I can try to provide some," he replied, and she blushed. At the door, Lily tugged on Maya's sleeve. "Will you come back tomorrow?" Maya knelt, brushing a curl from her face. "If your daddy says yes?" Lily turned to her father with pleading eyes. "Please, Daddy?" Daniel smiled. "We will see." When Maya stepped outside, the sky was painted with orange and pink. She turned back once to wave, and Daniel waved too, his silhouette framed by the warm glow of home. After she left, Lily climbed onto the couch beside him, her eyes sleepy. "Daddy, are you happy now?" she murmured. He wrapped his arm around her, pulling her close. "Yeah," he said quietly. "I think I am." "Maya makes you happy," she said matter-of-factly. "She does," he admitted. "She makes everything better." Lily yawned. "Then we should keep her," he laughed softly. "I will do my best." That night, as Maya lay in bed, she looked at the bracelet Lily had made and the napkin Daniel had once given her. Two small, ordinary things, but to her, they were symbols of something extraordinary. She whispered into the quiet room, "Please let this be real." Across the city, Daniel stood by his window, looking at the stars. The napkin she had written on all those weeks ago was still in his wallet. He touched it like a talisman, whispering to himself, "It already is." The night carried their silent wishes through the air, two hearts, one rhythm, drawing closer with every breath. The following evening, the sky turned gray and restless, the kind of weather that carried stories waiting to unfold. Maya stood at the cafe counter, wiping the same spot for what felt like the 10th time. She was distracted, lost in the echo of Daniel's laughter and Lily's bright smile from the day before. She still could not believe she had spent a Sunday morning cooking pancakes with them, as if she were already a part of their world, and maybe, in some quiet way, she was. The bell over the door jingled, and her heart skipped before she even looked up. Daniel was there, raincoat slightly damp, hair tousled from the wind. "You are going to wear out that counter," he said with a grin. "I was starting to think you forgot how to visit without a cup of coffee in hand," she replied. "Never," he said. especially when the best coffee in town comes with good company. Smooth, she teased, handing him a cup. What brings you here this late? Lily is at her friend's sleepover, he said. The house felt too quiet. I thought maybe you would not mind a little noise. You could never be noise, she said softly, then caught herself and laughed. Sit anywhere you like. I am closing up soon. He sat at their usual corner table, watching her move through the cafe. The rhythm of her motions gentle but sure. When she finally joined him, the rain outside had softened to a drizzle, tapping lightly against the glass. It feels strange, he admitted. The house, I mean. Empty, without her there. I used to wish for quiet, but now I realize silence can be the loudest thing. I know that feeling, Maya said. When I first moved here, I thought being alone meant being strong, but it just meant being lonely. And now? He asked. Now, she said, meeting his gaze. I think strength is letting someone in. His eyes softened. You have been letting me in since the day you gave me a seat. That was just an act of kindness, she said quietly. It turned into something I never expected. Same here, he said. The silence that followed was heavy with everything unspoken. Then, almost as if to break the tension, the lights flickered. A storm rolled across the city, thunder rumbling in the distance. Looks like the weather wants to join us, Daniel said, smiling. You better stay until it passes, she said. That sounded like an invitation, he teased. Maybe it was, she replied, her tone half playful, half sincere. As the rain grew heavier, the cafe emptied out. Maya locked the door, leaving only the two of them inside, the golden lights casting a soft glow around their table. You know, Daniel said, I have not told you much about my work. That is true, she said. You are always the one asking questions. It is not on purpose, he said. I just like hearing you talk about your art, your dreams. It reminds me of when I used to dream too. Used to? She asked gently. I guess life made me focus on surviving instead of dreaming. But watching Lily draw, watching you create, it is like remembering what joy looks like. Maya smiled faintly. You built a good life, Daniel. Maybe you just forgot to live in it. He looked down, chuckling softly. Maybe. But lately, it feels like I am starting to remember. A flash of lightning lit up the window, and for a second, the world outside vanished. When the thunder followed, Maya flinched slightly. You okay? He asked. Yeah, she said. I just hate storms. You are safe here, he said quietly. His words settled between them like warmth in the cold. He reached across the table, his hand brushing hers, not planned, not bold, just real. You do not have to be afraid anymore, he said. Her breath caught, but she did not pull away. You have a way of saying things that make people believe them, she whispered. Only when they are true. For a long time they stayed like that, hands touching, silence filling the space in a way that felt like music. When the rain finally eased, Daniel looked toward the window. It stopped, he said. You are free to kick me out now. I was not planning to, she said. Good, he replied, his smile slow and genuine. Because I was hoping we could have dinner sometime. Not as a dad and his daughter's friend, but as two people who found each other by accident. Maya hesitated, her heart racing. Are you sure about that? I have never been more sure, he said. You do not owe me anything, Daniel. I am not looking for anything owed, he said softly. I am looking for something real. Her eyes met his, and the walls she had built around herself began to fall. Okay, she said finally, her voice trembling with both fear and hope. Dinner sounds nice. Saturday? He asked. Saturday, she repeated. He stood, slipping on his coat. Then it is a date. Be careful, she said as he stepped toward the door. Always, he replied. When he left, the cafe felt fuller somehow, as if the air itself had absorbed their shared warmth. Maya leaned against the counter, smiling to herself, unaware that her life had just shifted again. Across town, Daniel drove home through wet streets, a quiet smile playing on his lips. When he parked, he saw the sketch Lily had taped to the dashboard, a drawing of 3 figures under a cafe sign. He touched it gently, whispering to himself, maybe this is where it all begins. Outside, the storm clouds parted, revealing a faint moon above the city. It glowed like a promise, soft, steady, and full of things yet to come. Saturday arrived with the nervous excitement of something new waiting to happen. Maya woke before sunrise, her heart fluttering in quiet anticipation. It had been years since she had felt this way, nervous about something as simple and human as dinner with someone who mattered. She spent the morning cleaning her apartment, not because Daniel was coming over, but because she needed to calm her restless energy. She replayed their conversation from the cafe in her head again and again, every word, every glance. The way he had said, "I am looking for something real," had stayed with her, like a soft echo that refused to fade. Across town, Daniel was having a morning that felt both ordinary and extraordinary. He helped Lily with her breakfast, smiling as she talked nonstop about her school project and how she wanted Maya to see it soon. He kept the details of his evening plans to himself, though Lily seemed to sense something different about his mood. "Daddy, why are you smiling like that?" she asked, squinting at him suspiciously. "Like what?" he said, pretending to focus on the pancakes. "Like your heart is giggling," she said with a grin. Daniel laughed. "Maybe it is." "Is it about Maya?" she asked bluntly. He froze, nearly dropping the spatula. "What makes you think that?" "Because you only smile like that when you talk about her," Lily said matter-of-factly. He leaned down and kissed her forehead. "You are too smart for your own good." "Can she come over again soon?" Lily asked. "Maybe," he said softly. "We will see." Later that day, Maya stood in front of her mirror, trying on a simple navy dress. It was not fancy, but it felt right, comfortable, honest. She told herself it was just dinner, but her reflection betrayed her. There was hope in her eyes, and something fragile beneath it. By 7 o'clock, she arrived at the small Italian restaurant Daniel had chosen. The lights were warm, the air filled with the scent of basil and fresh bread. When he stood to greet her, her breath caught for a moment. He looked relaxed but elegant, his smile genuine. "You look beautiful," he said. "Thank you," she replied softly. "You clean up pretty well yourself." They laughed, the kind of laughter that came easy between them now. As they sat, conversation flowed naturally, moving between light-hearted stories and moments of quiet depth. He told her about how he had started his company with nothing but an idea and a sketchbook. She told him about the years she had spent taking odd jobs while trying to finish art school. "I always thought success was for other people," she admitted. "People who had money, connections, luck, not people like me." "You are wrong," he said gently. "Success belongs to those who do not give up, and you are still standing." "Sometimes barely," she said with a smile. "Barely still counts," he said, meeting her eyes. When their food arrived, they shared a single plate of pasta, laughing as they both reached for the same fork. "This feels like one of those movie moments," Maya said, blushing. "The ones where something changes forever." "Maybe it already has," he said quietly. The words hung in the air between them, heavy but beautiful. After dinner, they walked outside. The city was alive with lights, but the air carried a calm hush that made the night feel private, almost sacred. They strolled along the river, the reflections of the city shimmering across the water. "You know," she said softly, "when I first met you, I thought you were just another tired man having a bad day." "And now?" he asked. "Now I think you are the reason my days got better." He stopped walking, turning to face her. "Maya," he said, his voice low and steady. "I never expected you. I was not looking for anything, not love, not even hope. But you made both find me again." She swallowed hard, her heart pounding. "Daniel, I just need you to know," he continued. "Whatever this is, it is real for me." "It is real for me too," she said, barely above a whisper. For a moment, they simply stood there, the wind brushing between them, the city glowing around them. Then, quietly, he reached out and took her hand. It was not dramatic, not rushed, just two people finding something true in a world that often felt too fleeting. "Can I walk you home?" he asked. She nodded, unable to speak. They walked in silence, but it was a silence filled with meaning. When they reached her building, she turned to him. "Thank you," she said softly. "For tonight, for everything." "You do not have to thank me," he said. "You gave me something to look forward to again." "I hope that does not scare you," she said. "It used to," he admitted, "but not anymore." She smiled. "Good night, Daniel." "Good night, Maya," he said, his voice gentle, his eyes holding hers for a heartbeat longer than goodbye required. She went inside, her heart racing, her smile impossible to hide. Upstairs, in the quiet of her apartment, she leaned against the door, exhaling deeply. She looked at the bracelet Lily had made her and whispered, "This is how it begins." Across the city, Daniel sat in his car, staring at the glowing windows of her building. For the first time in years, the future did not seem uncertain. It seemed possible. He whispered to himself, "Maybe love really does find you when you stop running from it." Then he smiled, started the engine, and drove home through streets that suddenly felt like they were leading somewhere new. The following week moved like a dream that both of them were afraid to wake from. The air between Daniel and Maya had changed softer, warmer, carrying the quiet electricity of something real beginning to take shape. They continued to see each other, never rushing, always moving carefully through moments that felt like they could last forever. Lily, with her boundless joy, seemed to sense it before anyone else. One Friday afternoon, as Daniel picked her up from school, she climbed into the car and said with absolute certainty, "Daddy, I think Maya likes you." He smiled, pretending to focus on the road. "Oh, really? And what makes you think that?" "Because she looks at you the same way you look at her," Lily said matter-of-factly. "Like you found your favorite thing and do not want to lose it." Daniel laughed softly. "You are too smart for me. You know that?" "Maya says smart girls see the truth," Lily replied, buckling her seatbelt. That evening, Maya was finishing her shift at the cafe when Daniel and Lily walked in. She had just turned off the espresso machine, ready to close, but when she saw them, she could not help but smile. "We are your last customers," Daniel said, placing 2 hot chocolates and 1 coffee on the counter. "Perfect timing," she said. "What are you celebrating?" "A good week," he replied. "And maybe something better." Lily jumped in before her father could continue. "Daddy asked if you want to go to the park with us tomorrow." Maya looked from Lily to Daniel. "Did he now?" "Only if you are free," he said, smiling. "I am," she said. "I would love to." The next morning, the park was alive with color. The air smelled of fresh grass and distant coffee, children's laughter echoing through the trees. Daniel carried a picnic basket while Maya walked beside him, her hair tied back, the sunlight catching strands of gold. Lily ran ahead with her kite, her laughter floating on the breeze. "I think she might fly away with that," Maya joked. "I would not mind," Daniel said. "She deserves to feel that free." "You both do," Maya said softly. They found a quiet spot under a willow tree and spread out a blanket. The day unfolded in warmth and laughter sandwiches, stories, silly jokes that made Lily laugh so hard she nearly spilled her juice. Daniel watched Maya with quiet awe, the way she blended effortlessly into their small world, as if she had always belonged there. "You know," he said at one point, "I have not seen Lily this happy in years." "She just needed a reason to smile again," Maya said. "You gave her that." "Maybe we both did," he said. As the afternoon faded, Lily curled up on the blanket, half asleep, her kite string still wrapped around her fingers. Maya and Daniel sat side by side, watching the sunset spill across the sky in shades of pink and gold. "I never thought I could feel this again," he said quietly. "Peace, happiness. It used to feel impossible." "Sometimes it takes losing everything to know what matters," she said. "You taught me that," he replied. "You remind me that love is not about grand gestures, it is about showing up." She turned to him, her voice barely above a whisper. "And you remind me that good men still exist." They sat there in silence, the weight of the moment pressing softly around them. He reached for her hand, and she let him. For a while, neither moved, their fingers entwined as the world slowed around them. Just as the first stars began to appear, Maya's phone buzzed. She glanced down, her expression shifting. Daniel noticed immediately. "Everything okay?" "It is just work," she said, forcing a small smile. "The cafe's new owner wants to meet all the staff tomorrow. Something about restructuring." "Do you think it is serious?" he asked. "Maybe," she said. "I guess we will find out. If you need anything, you know you can call me," he said. "I mean that." "I know," she said softly. "Thank you." They packed up the picnic in comfortable silence, both lost in thought. As they walked back to the car, Lily sleepily reached for Maya's hand instead of her father's. Daniel smiled quietly at the sight. his heart full. When they dropped Maya off, she knelt by the car door and brushed Lily's hair. "Get some rest, sweetheart. Dream about flying kites. Only if you are there too," Lily murmured before falling asleep. Maya looked up at Daniel, her heart caught somewhere between joy and fear. "Good night," she said softly. "Good night, Maya," he replied. "See you tomorrow." She nodded, though something about his words lingered. The next morning came with gray skies and a sense of unease. Maya arrived early at the cafe, only to find men in suits and the new owner, a man she had never met, standing at the counter. They were polite, but firm. "We are renovating," the man said. "We will be closed for several weeks. Some of the staff positions may not be guaranteed afterward." Maya felt the floor shift beneath her. "I understand," she said quietly, though her chest ached. She spent the rest of the morning cleaning, her thoughts tangled. When Daniel called that afternoon to ask how it went, she hesitated before answering. "They are closing the cafe," she said finally. "I do not know if I will have a job after this month." "Maya," he said, his voice filled with concern. "I am so sorry." "It is okay," she said, though tears pricked her eyes. "I will figure it out. I always do." "You do not have to do it alone," he said. "I mean it." "I know," she whispered. "I just need time to think." That night, as she sat by her window, the city lights shimmering in the distance, she opened her sketchbook and began to draw again. Her hand moved without thought, a chair, a cup of coffee, a folded napkin with faded words. "Hope your day gets better." She stared at it for a long time and whispered, "It did, until now." Across the city, Daniel stood by his own window, phone still in hand, wishing he could take her worries away. But for now, all he could do was wait, and hope that she would let him be the one to help her carry the storm. The next few days moved like slow rain, soft, uncertain, and filled with silence that neither of them quite knew how to break. Maya spent her time looking for new jobs, filling out applications at nearby bakeries, coffee shops, and even a small art supply store. But every rejection felt heavier than the last. It was not just about losing work. It was about losing the place where her story with Daniel and Lily had begun. The cafe had been more than a job. It had been the first space where she felt seen. Each time she walked past the locked door, she felt a small ache in her chest. Across town, Daniel noticed her absence like a missing rhythm. He texted her each morning, never too many words, always gentle. "Thinking of you. Did you eat? Lily wants to know if you are coming over this weekend." Some messages went unanswered. Others got short replies. "Just tired. Maybe another time." He tried to give her space, but the quiet stretched longer than he expected. One evening, after putting Lily to bed, Daniel sat on the porch, phone in hand, debating whether to call. He finally typed a message. "You do not have to face this alone, Maya. Please, let me be there for you." Then he hit send. Maya saw it just before midnight. She sat in bed, phone glowing in the dark, tears filling her eyes. She wanted to reply, to tell him that his words mattered, that she missed him more than she wanted to admit, but fear held her still. She had grown up learning not to rely on others, not to hope too much. Still, she typed 2 words back before she could stop herself. "Thank you." The next morning she woke to another message. "Lily made you something. She wants to give it to you herself. Can we drop by?" Maya hesitated, then smiled faintly. "Okay." A few hours later, Daniel's car pulled up outside her small apartment building. Lily jumped out first, holding a paper bag decorated with colorful hearts. "Maya!" she called, running up the steps. Maya opened the door, her tiredness melting at the sight of the little girl's bright face. "Hi, sweetheart," she said, kneeling to hug her. "What is this?" "A surprise," Lily said proudly, handing her the bag. Inside was a drawing of the 3 of them sitting under a cafe sign, the words, "New Beginnings," written in bright blue crayon. Maya's throat tightened. "Lily, this is beautiful." "Daddy helped with the letters," Lily said. Daniel stood behind her, his smile soft. "She wanted to remind you that new stories can start anywhere." Maya looked at him, her eyes shining with unspoken emotion. "You two always know what to say." "We just miss you," he said simply. "Both of us." She nodded slowly. "I miss you too." He took a small step closer. "How have you been holding up?" "Trying," she said. "It has been hard. I thought I was fine being on my own, but—" Her voice trailed off. "But it is different when someone cares," he finished for her. "Yeah," she said quietly. "It is." He hesitated for a moment, then said, "You know, my company has a small community project, a local art initiative for children. They need someone creative to help organize it. I was wondering if you would consider joining." Maya blinked in surprise. "You mean, work with you?" "Not for me," he said quickly. "With me, it would be part-time at first, flexible hours. You could even bring your sketchbook. I know it might sound like charity, but it is not. You would be doing something important." She stared at him, unsure whether to laugh or cry. "Daniel, I do not know what to say." "Say yes," he said gently. "At least think about it." Lily tugged on Maya's sleeve. "Say yes, Maya. You could teach me how to draw trees." Maya laughed softly, tears spilling down her cheeks. "You two do not play fair," she said. "Okay, I will do it." "You will?" Daniel asked, smiling wider than he had in days. "I will," she said, "but only if Lily promises to be my best student." "Deal!" Lily shouted, jumping up and down. The three of them spent the rest of the morning talking and laughing in Maya's small living room, sunlight filtering through the window. For the first time in weeks, the heaviness lifted. Later, as they got ready to leave, Daniel paused at the door. "Thank you for letting us in," he said quietly. "You always have a way of showing up right when I need it most," she replied. "Maybe that is what we do for each other," he said. After they left, Maya stood by the window, watching them drive away. She looked down at Lily's drawing again, 3 figures, holding hands under the words, "New beginnings." She whispered to herself, "Maybe this time, I believe it." Across town, Daniel felt the same quiet hope as he drove, Lily singing softly in the back seat. He glanced at her through the rearview mirror. "You did good today, kiddo." "I know," she said proudly. Maya smiled again. He nodded, his heart full. "Yeah," he said softly. "She did." That night, Maya sat at her desk, her sketchbook open. For the first time in a long while, her pencil moved easily, tracing soft lines of a cafe window, a father, a daughter, and a woman who had once believed she was ordinary but was slowly realizing she was anything but. And beneath the sketch, she wrote 2 words in tiny letters. "Still here." The following week felt like sunlight after a long winter. Maya began her new role at Daniel's community art project, a bright studio filled with children's laughter, paint-stained tables, and walls lined with colorful drawings. It was not just a job, it was a purpose. Daniel had arranged everything carefully, making sure she felt independent, not indebted. When she walked in on her first day, Lily was already there, sitting cross-legged on the floor with a box of crayons. "Miss Maya!" she shouted, grinning from ear to ear. "I saved you the purple crayon." "My favorite," Maya said, smiling as she knelt beside her. Daniel was standing by the window, watching them with quiet satisfaction. He had not seen his daughter this happy in a long time. The days settled into a gentle rhythm. Maya led art sessions for the kids, teaching them how to turn simple shapes into stories. Daniel joined whenever his meetings allowed, sometimes sketching alongside them, sometimes just watching. Every time their eyes met across the room, something unspoken passed between them, a silent acknowledgement that this was more than coincidence. One afternoon, after the children had gone home, Maya stayed behind to clean up. Daniel was still there, stacking chairs and gathering supplies. "You did great today," he said. "The kids love you." "They love the colors," she replied, smiling. "I just give them permission to make a mess." "Sometimes that is all people need," he said quietly. "Permission to make a beautiful mess." She looked at him for a long moment. "Thank you for this, Daniel, for believing I could do something meaningful again." "You already were meaningful," he said softly. "You just forgot for a while." Their eyes held for a moment longer before a noise interrupted them. Lily's small voice calling from the hallway. "Daddy, can we get ice cream?" Daniel laughed, breaking the tension. "How about we invite Maya?" "Yes," Lily said immediately. "Maya has to come." Maya smiled. "I suppose I cannot say no to that." They walked together to a nearby ice cream shop, the air cool and sweet with the scent of sugar and vanilla. Lily insisted on ordering for everyone chocolate for her, vanilla for her dad, and strawberry for Maya. They sat by the window, the fading sunlight painting everything gold. "You know," Maya said between bites, "this might be the best ice cream I have ever had." "That is because it comes with good company," Daniel said. "Exactly," Lily added. "Ice cream only works with happy people." "Is that a rule?" Maya asked. "Yes," Lily said, licking her spoon. "You cannot eat ice cream if you are sad." "Then I guess we have no choice but to stay happy," Daniel said, smiling. Maya laughed softly, feeling something warm bloom in her chest. Later, as they walked back, Lily skipped ahead, humming to herself. Daniel slowed his pace beside Maya. "You seem lighter," he said. "I feel lighter," she admitted. "It is strange. I spent so long thinking life was about surviving. Now I just want to live." "You deserve that," he said. "You both do." When they reached Maya's building, Lily wrapped her arms around her legs. "Promise you will come back tomorrow?" "I promise," Maya said, brushing a curl from her forehead. "Sleep well, sweetheart." As they drove off, Daniel glanced at Maya's reflection in the side mirror until she disappeared from view. That night, he could not sleep. He found himself in his office, papers spread out, but his mind miles away. He kept thinking about her laugh, her resilience, the quiet strength she carried like armor she did not realize she had. Around midnight, his phone buzzed. A message from Maya. "I just wanted to say thank you. Today was the first day in a long time that I felt like myself again." He smiled, typing back. "You never stopped being yourself. The world just took a while to notice." On the other end, Maya read his reply, her heart catching in her throat. She whispered into the quiet, "You noticed." The next morning, the art studio buzzed with excitement. A local newspaper had sent a photographer to feature Daniel's program. He stood by Maya's side as the children posed with their artwork. When the reporter asked who started the idea, Daniel said without hesitation, "Maya inspired this project. She reminded me that creativity heals." Maya blinked, surprised and touched. "I just gave the kids crayons," she said, smiling, "and they turned them into magic. That is what artists do," he said. After the interview, as the photographer packed up, Maya stood by the window, looking out at the park beyond. "You really meant what you said?" she asked softly. "Every word," Daniel replied. "You changed more than this program, Maya. You changed us." "Us?" she asked, turning to face him. "Lily and me," he said. "You brought light back into our lives." "And what about you?" she asked quietly. "Do you think you have changed?" He paused, his voice lower now. "Yes. You made me remember how to feel again." Their eyes met, the air between them heavy with truth. Before either could say more, Lily burst through the door, holding two freshly painted paper hearts. "Look," she said proudly. "One for Daddy, one for Maya." Daniel laughed, taking one and handing the other to Maya. "Thank you, sweetheart," she said, smiling through the sudden rush of emotion. As Lily skipped away, Daniel looked at Maya. "She already thinks of you as part of the family, you know." "And what about you?" Maya asked softly. "What do you think?" He smiled, his voice barely above a whisper. "I think I am starting to feel the same way." Outside, the sunlight spilled through the window, catching in Maya's hair, and for the first time, Daniel allowed himself to believe that maybe, just maybe, love had found him again in the simplest, most unexpected way. The days that followed carried a strange, steady rhythm, one filled with laughter, work, and a quiet tenderness that neither Daniel nor Maya dared to name. The art studio became their shared world, a small haven where time slowed down, and everything outside seemed to fade away. Daniel often arrived early under the excuse of checking supplies, but really it was because he liked being there before anyone else. When Maya would walk in with her hair slightly messy from the morning breeze, her sketchbook tucked under one arm, and that soft smile that always made him forget the weight of his responsibilities. One morning, as she arranged brushes on the table, he watched her for a moment before saying, "You know, I never told you how grateful I am that you said yes to this project." "If you had told me that a few weeks ago," she said with a teasing grin, "I would have thought you were trying to bribe me." "Maybe I was," he said. "Maybe I still am." "With what?" she asked, raising an eyebrow. Coffee, laughter, and a very persistent child? He smiled. Among other things. She rolled her eyes playfully, but her heart fluttered in a way she could not quite control. Their moments were full of light like that, easy, effortless, real. But beneath it, something deeper was building, something that both thrilled and terrified her. That evening, after the last child had gone home, Maya lingered to clean the paint trays. Daniel stayed too, pretending to organize paperwork but mostly just to keep her company. "You do not have to wait," she said. "I know," he replied, leaning against the doorway. "I want to." She looked up, caught off guard by the sincerity in his tone. "You really should be careful saying things like that," she said quietly. "Why?" "Because they sound like promises." "Maybe they are," he said, his voice low. For a long moment, neither moved. The only sound was the distant hum of the city outside. Then, as if realizing how close they were to crossing a line neither of them was ready for, Maya laughed softly and said, "You are terrible at small talk." "I am better at honesty," he said. "That is what scares me," she admitted. Before he could answer, her phone buzzed. It was a message from an unknown number. She frowned, opening it. The text read, "You should be careful who you get close to. Not everyone is who they seem." Her stomach tightened. "Everything okay?" Daniel asked, noticing her sudden stillness. "Yeah," she said quickly, locking her phone. "Probably just spam." But her voice trembled slightly. Daniel frowned. "If someone is bothering you?" "It is fine," she said, forcing a smile. "Really?" She changed the subject, and he let it go, though unease lingered in his chest. The next morning, Maya found an envelope slipped under the studio door. No name, just her own handwriting from the attendance sheet copied across the front. Inside was a photo, her and Daniel laughing together during one of the workshops, and a note written in messy ink. "He is not who you think he is." Her hands shook as she read it. She looked up when she heard footsteps. Daniel was standing in the doorway, holding 2 cups of coffee, his expression instantly softening when he saw her. "Morning," he said cheerfully. "I thought you might need caffeine before the chaos starts." She forced a smile. "You always know." "That is my job," he said. "Taking care of the people who make this place work." The words should have warmed her heart, but now they made her uneasy. She slipped the envelope into her bag before he could notice. Throughout the day, she tried to shake it off, but her thoughts kept circling back to the note. Who would send it, and why? That afternoon, while Daniel was in a meeting, she overheard 2 parents talking near the door. "That is Daniel Carter, right?" one whispered. "The CEO of Carter Design Group?" "Yes," the other said. "I saw his interview on television last month. The man is practically a millionaire." "What is he doing running an art class for kids?" Maya froze. Her pulse quickened. A millionaire. She felt dizzy, the puzzle pieces shifting in her mind, the expensive watch he never mentioned, the sleek car, the calm confidence of someone who had always been in control. She stepped outside for air, her thoughts spinning. When Daniel returned later, she was quiet. "Everything okay?" he asked. "You seem off today." "Just tired," she said, forcing a smile. But he knew her too well. "Maya," he said softly, "if something's wrong, you can tell me." "Can I?" she asked, the words slipping out sharper than she intended. He looked confused. "Of course." "Then tell me the truth," she said, her voice trembling. "Who are you really?" He blinked, taken aback. "What?" "I heard people talking today," she said, her hands shaking. "They said you are Daniel Carter, the Daniel Carter, the millionaire who owns half the design firms in this city. Is that true?" He hesitated, and that tiny pause was all the answer she needed. "Maya, you lied to me," she said, her voice breaking. "All this time, you let me believe you were just some kind man with a kid who needed coffee and company. Why? Because I wanted to be seen for who I am, not what I have," he said, stepping closer. "And you did. You saw me. Not the name, not the money me. You should have trusted me enough to tell me," she said, tears filling her eyes. "I thought we were honest with each other." "I was," he said, desperate. "At least, I was trying to be." "You built everything on a lie," she whispered. He reached for her hand, but she stepped back. "Maya, please, let me explain." "Not now," she said, grabbing her bag. I cannot do this. And before he could stop her, she was gone, the sound of her footsteps echoing down the hallway like the breaking of something fragile. Daniel stood alone in the studio, the laughter of children still lingering faintly in the air, and for the first time in years, he felt truly helpless. Across town, Maya sat on a park bench, staring at the photo from the envelope. She turned it over in her hands, the words haunting her again. He is not who you think he is. But the worst part was realizing that maybe, just maybe, she still wanted to believe he was. That night, the city seemed colder than usual. Maya walked home through the soft drizzle, her mind spiraling in disbelief. The revelation that Daniel was not the man she thought she knew gnawed at her heart like a quiet storm. She had opened herself to him, trusted him, and now everything felt tainted by the secret he had kept. When she reached her apartment, she sat on the floor, her back against the door, the envelope still in her hands. The picture of them laughing together, once a symbol of something beautiful, now felt like a cruel reminder of how fragile trust could be. Across town, Daniel sat alone in his office, the city lights reflecting in the glass behind him. He had spent hours trying to reach her, his calls unanswered, his messages unread. Every minute felt like losing her all over again. Lily had fallen asleep, clutching her stuffed rabbit, unaware that her father's heart was unraveling. Daniel finally turned off his phone and whispered into the silence. You wanted to be honest, and now you have lost the one person who saw you. The next morning, Maya called in sick to the art program. She could not face him, not yet. Instead, she spent the day wandering the city, the noise of traffic blending with the chaos in her head. She replayed every conversation, every moment, searching for signs she should have seen. The expensive car, the watch, the confidence, things that now felt like clues she had ignored because she wanted to believe he was ordinary, just like her. By afternoon, she found herself sitting on the same cafe steps where they had first met. It was closed now, a for lease sign taped to the window, the faint smell of coffee still lingering in the air. She closed her eyes and could almost hear his voice again, calm, warm, asking for a seat at her table. A tear slipped down her cheek. Meanwhile, Daniel went to the studio, hoping she might show up. She did not. The children painted quietly, unaware of the tension in his expression. He smiled when he had to, but inside, his thoughts were a storm. After class, he sat at her usual table, running a hand over the empty chair across from him. That was where she had laughed, where she had looked at him like he was more than the name attached to his fortune. He wanted to believe he could fix this, but he did not know how. 2 days later, Maya finally returned to the studio. She needed to face him, if only to end things properly. When she walked in, Daniel was already there, waiting by the window. He turned at the sound of her footsteps, relief flashing across his face. You came, he said softly. I almost didn't, she replied. But I do not like unfinished stories. Neither do I, he said. There was a long pause before she spoke again. Why did you not tell me? Because I wanted to be someone real to you, he said quietly. Not Daniel Carter, the businessman. Just Daniel, the man who spilled coffee on himself and found kindness in a stranger. You could have told me the truth, she said. I would have still cared. Would you? He asked. Or would it have changed everything between us before it even began? She hesitated, unable to answer. He took a small step closer. Maya, I was never hiding because I was ashamed of who I am. I just wanted something honest for once in my life. You gave me that. Honesty does not come from pretending, she said, her voice trembling. It comes from being brave enough to be seen. He nodded slowly. You are right, and I was a coward for not telling you sooner. But please, do not let that erase everything else. What we have it is real. Her eyes filled with tears. I do not know what is real anymore. Then let me show you, he said softly. He pulled something from his coat pocket, a worn sketchbook, one she had left behind in the studio weeks ago. She gasped when she saw it. You kept this? I did, he said, because it reminded me of you, of the way you see beauty in small things. I thought if I ever lost my way, I could look at it and remember what matters. She took it from his hands, her fingers brushing his, her heart aching. You should have trusted me, she whispered. I do now, he said, completely. She looked up at him, searching his eyes for any sign of deceit. All she saw was truth, raw, imperfect, human. "You hurt me," she said. "I know," he said, "and I will spend as long as it takes trying to make it right." "It is not that simple," she said, stepping back. "You built a life I cannot even imagine fitting into. You belong to a different world." "Then I will build a bridge between them," he said. "You are my world now, Maya. You and Lily." The mention of his daughter made her pause. "Does she know?" "No," he said softly, "and I do not want her to think less of me." "She loves you, Maya. You are her favorite part of our lives." The words cut deep. Maya turned away, staring out the window, her reflection fractured by the glass. "I need time," she said finally. "I am not sure I can trust this again." "Take all the time you need," he said. "I will be here." "Do not wait for me," she said quietly. "I already am," he whispered. She looked back at him one last time, her eyes filled with a mix of anger, longing, and heartbreak, before walking away again. Daniel stood there until the sound of the door closing faded. Outside, Maya walked into the rain without an umbrella, the drops cold against her skin. Each step felt heavy, but necessary. Somewhere deep down, she still wanted to believe him. But for now, belief was a luxury her heart could not afford. And yet, even as she disappeared into the gray morning, Daniel whispered to himself, "Love does not end with a mistake. It waits." The following week unfolded like a slow ache that neither of them could escape. Maya stayed away from the studio, unable to face Daniel or the children, especially Lily. Every morning she woke up with the weight of his words echoing in her mind. "You are my world now, Maya. You and Lily." They sounded like a promise, but her heart was not ready to believe again. She threw herself into job searches, sketching late into the night to fill the silence. But everything she drew led back to him: the cafe window, Lily's smile, the chair where he used to sit. Across town, Daniel tried to keep the studio running, though it felt emptier without her. Lily noticed before anyone else. "Daddy," she asked one morning, "why is Maya not here?" Daniel knelt to her level, choosing his words carefully. "Maya just needs some time, sweetheart." "Did you make her sad?" Lily asked. He paused, guilt washing over him. "A little," he said softly. "Then you should say sorry," she said simply, as if it were the easiest thing in the world. He smiled sadly. "I will, Lily. I promise." That afternoon, Daniel canceled his meetings and drove to Maya's neighborhood. He parked across the street from her apartment but stayed in the car, unsure what to say. For once, words failed him. He thought about leaving a note, but something stopped him. She needed space. He could not rush forgiveness. As he sat there, rain began to fall, tapping softly on the windshield. He looked up at her window and whispered, "I am sorry," knowing she would not hear but hoping somehow she would feel it. Inside her apartment, Maya sat by the window with a cup of tea, staring at the rain. For a moment, she thought she saw a familiar car across the street, but when she blinked, it was gone. Her chest tightened with a strange mix of longing and fear. The next day, the studio hosted a children's art showcase, something Maya had helped plan weeks ago. Daniel debated whether to cancel, but Lily insisted Maya would want us to do it. So he went through with it, though his heart was heavy. The room was filled with color and laughter, but to him, it felt hollow. When the event ended, he stood by the display table, looking at the drawings the children had made. One caught his eye, a crayon picture of 3 figures holding hands under a rainbow. Lily's handwriting underneath read, "Family." His throat tightened. Meanwhile, Maya received an invitation in the mail that evening, a hand-drawn flyer from the studio, signed in colorful letters by the kids. "Come see our art. We miss you, Miss Maya." She stared at it for a long time before placing it on her table. The next morning, she finally decided to go. When she arrived, the showcase was nearly over. She stood quietly in the doorway, watching as children ran around proudly showing their artwork. Then she saw him. Daniel was kneeling beside Lily, helping her pin up a new drawing. His sleeves were rolled up, his smile gentle but tired. When he looked up and saw her, the world seemed to pause. "Maya," he said softly, standing. The sound of her name in his voice almost undid her. I just came to drop something off, she said quickly, holding out a folder. The lesson plans I forgot to send. You could have just emailed them, he said. I know, she replied. But the kids deserved better than silence. He nodded, understanding the meaning behind her words. Lily spotted her then, running over with pure joy. Maya, she shouted, hugging her tightly. You came? Maya knelt, hugging her back. Of course I did, sweetheart. I missed you. We made more paintings, Lily said excitedly. And Daddy said you taught us how to see color in everything. Maya smiled, glancing at Daniel. He said that? Every day, Lily said proudly. Maya's eyes softened, but before she could reply, one of the parents called Lily over to take a photo. Daniel took a deep breath. Thank you for coming, he said quietly. I was not sure you would. I almost did not, she admitted. But Lily's drawing changed my mind. She still draws you in every picture, he said. You are part of our story now, whether you believe it or not. I do not know if I can be, she said, her voice trembling. I want to, but… Maya, he interrupted gently. You do not owe me forgiveness. But I need you to know that everything I said to you was true. The money, the company, that is not who I am when I am with you. You saw the part of me I thought was gone. You lied, Daniel, she said, tears forming. You made me fall for a man who did not exist. No, he said. You fell for the man I have always been, the one I became when I met you. His voice broke, but he continued. I should have told you the truth sooner. I just did not want to lose what we had. You lost it anyway, she whispered. Maybe, he said, but I am still here, hoping we can find it again. For a moment, neither spoke. The room was filled with the laughter of children, but between them hung the fragile silence of two hearts learning how to speak again. Finally, Maya said, I need time. Real time. Not promises, not apologies, just space. Then I will give you that, he said softly. But I am not giving up on us. She nodded, unable to meet his gaze. Goodbye, Daniel. See you soon, Maya, he replied, his voice steady, but his heart breaking. As she walked away, Lily ran back to him, holding up a drawing. Look, Daddy, I drew Maya coming back. He looked at it, his eyes stinging. 3 figures stood together under a bright yellow Sunday. It is beautiful, he said, his voice barely above a whisper. That night, Maya placed the drawing Lily had given her on her desk. It showed 3 people holding hands, surrounded by hearts and color. She traced the outline with her fingers and whispered, maybe one day. Across town, Daniel stood at his window, staring out at the quiet city. He whispered into the dark, maybe one day is closer than we think. The rain began to fall again, soft and steady, as if the sky itself was learning how to let go and start over. 2 months passed. Winter had begun to fade, and the first hints of spring touched the city with shy sunlight and air that smelled faintly of renewal. Maya had settled into a quiet routine mornings spent sketching at her small kitchen table, afternoons walking through the park, evenings teaching free art lessons to neighborhood kids in the community hall. Life felt stable again, but her heart had never quite steadied. Daniel had kept his promise to give her space. No calls, no texts, no sudden appearances, just silence. But every so often, she would hear his name mentioned on the news, or see a story about his company's new charity project, and she would feel that familiar ache return. One morning, as she walked to the local market, she noticed something new near the corner café, a poster announcing an upcoming charity art exhibition hosted by Carter Foundation. The headline read, Art That Heals, a Celebration of Hope. Her breath caught when she saw the small print at the bottom. In collaboration with local artists, including the children of the downtown community studio. She felt a pull deep in her chest. The studio, the children, Daniel. That evening, she received a call from an unfamiliar number. When she answered, a bright voice chirped, Miss Maya, it is me, Lily. Maya's heart lifted immediately. Lily? How are you, sweetheart? Good. Daddy said I could call because we are doing the big art show and I wanted to ask if you are coming. We all drew pictures about you. Maya froze, smiling through a wave of emotion. You did? Yes. Mine has you and Daddy and me holding hands. Daddy says it is called Hope. Maya's throat tightened. That is beautiful, Lily. So you will come, right? I will try, Maya said softly. No trying, Lily insisted. You have to promise. Maya laughed gently. Okay, sweetheart, I promise. When the day of the event arrived, the city glowed under clear skies. The exhibition was held in a renovated warehouse-turned-gallery, its walls adorned with hundreds of paintings and drawings from children across the community. Maya hesitated at the entrance, her heart pounding. She almost turned away before she heard a familiar laugh, small, bright, unmistakable. Maya! Lily cried, running toward her. She knelt, hugging the girl tightly. Look, Daddy. I told you she would come. Daniel appeared a moment later, dressed simply in a white shirt and dark jacket. He looked different, tired, but softer, grounded. Hi, he said, his voice gentle. Hi, she replied. You kept busy. So did you, he said. I heard about your classes. The kids love you. They remind me of why I started, she said quietly. Of what matters. He nodded, his gaze steady. You matter, Maya. She looked away, her heart trembling. But before either could say more, Lily tugged at her sleeve. Come see my painting. The three of them walked together through the exhibit. The children's artwork covered every inch of the walls, bright skies, open fields, smiling faces. Then they stopped in front of Lily's piece. It showed the three of them beneath a tree, the words, Home is People, written in bright green across the top. Maya's eyes filled with tears. It is beautiful, she whispered. She worked on it for weeks, Daniel said. Said it was her way of showing what love looks like. Lily looked up at both of them. Daddy says love means staying even when it is hard, like when you have to say sorry. Maya smiled faintly, brushing a strand of hair from the girl's forehead. Your daddy is a very wise man. So are you coming home with us now? Lily asked innocently. Maya looked up at Daniel, startled. He froze, then knelt beside his daughter. Lily, he said softly, Maya has her own home, but we can share, Lily said with pure logic. Only a child could have. Maya laughed softly, though her heart ached with how much she wanted that to be true. Daniel stood, meeting her eyes. She is not wrong, he said quietly. Home is not always a place. Sometimes it is a person, Maya said, finishing his thought. The silence between them said everything neither dared to voice. As the night went on, the gallery filled with applause and laughter. Daniel gave a short speech about kindness and community, about how art connects people who might never have met otherwise. When he said, This project was inspired by someone who reminded me that integrity and compassion are worth more than any title or fortune, his eyes found hers across the crowd. Maya's heart tightened, every word sinking deep. After the event, she stepped outside for air, the city glowing in soft golden light. Daniel followed a few minutes later. You disappeared, he said. Old habit, she replied. I do that when things start to mean too much. Maybe it is time to stop running, he said. She smiled sadly. You sound like someone who finally learned how to stay. I did, he said, and I am not going anywhere this time. Daniel, she began, but he held up a hand. You do not have to say anything. I just needed you to know that the man you met in that cafe, the one who spilled his coffee and asked to sit at your table, that is still who I am. That is who I will always be with you. She took a slow breath, the night air cool against her skin. It was never about the money, Daniel. It was about trust. Then let me earn it back, he said. Not with words, with time. She looked at him for a long moment, then nodded. Time. She repeated softly. I can give you that. He smiled, relief flooding his face. Then that is all I need. They stood there beneath the streetlight, the city moving quietly around them. For the first time in months, the distance between them did not feel impossible. It felt like the beginning of something that had been waiting patiently to be made right. As they walked back into the gallery to join Lily, Maya reached out without thinking and took his hand. It was small, almost imperceptible, but Daniel felt it like sunlight breaking through after a long storm. And in that simple gesture, forgiveness began to take root. Spring turned into summer, and with it came quiet warmth that wrapped the city in soft light. The art studio had become more than just a place for children to draw. It had grown into a small sanctuary of kindness, laughter, and healing. Maya returned to teaching full-time, and the community flourished around her. Daniel kept his distance at first, honoring his promise to give her time, though his presence lingered in every corner of her world. He would stop by occasionally to drop off supplies or pick up Lily, always greeting her with that familiar, calm smile that carried a quiet respect. Their conversations were gentle now, small exchanges that slowly rebuilt the bridge between them. One afternoon, Lily burst into Maya's class carrying a folded piece of paper. "Miss Maya, Daddy says you have to read this," she said, bouncing excitedly. Maya unfolded it carefully. Inside was a letter written in Daniel's neat handwriting. It read, "Thank you for giving me time. I am not asking for what we had. I am asking for the chance to build something stronger, built on truth this time. You once told me that art is about seeing what others overlook. You helped me see myself. If you ever feel ready, meet me at the café, the one where it all began." Maya stared at the letter for a long moment, her hands trembling slightly. Later that evening, after class ended and the city began to glow with the golden hue of dusk, she walked to that familiar café corner. It had been reopened under new owners, but the scent of roasted coffee and the soft hum of conversation felt just the same. Daniel was there, sitting by the window with 2 cups of coffee, one of them untouched. When he looked up and saw her, his expression softened with relief and disbelief all at once. "You came?" he said quietly. "I did," she replied. "I almost did not. I would have waited," he said, "however long it took." She sat down across from him, her heart steady but tender. "This place feels smaller," she said, looking around. "Or maybe we just grew." "Maybe both," he said, smiling faintly. For a while, they just sat there, the silence comfortable, the air thick with unspoken memories. Finally, she asked, "Why here?" "Because this is where you first saw me," he said. "Not the man with money, not the name. Just a tired single father who needed a seat and a little kindness. I wanted to come back to that moment, to start there again." Maya nodded slowly, her eyes glistening. "You know, I was having the worst day when you walked in. I almost told you the seat was taken." "Then I am grateful you did not," he said softly. "That one small kindness changed everything." "It did," she agreed, "for both of us." He reached into his jacket pocket and placed something on the table, a small paper heart, faded but familiar. "Lily found this in her old art box," he said. "She said it was the first heart she ever made with you." Maya smiled, her voice trembling. "She called it our beginning." "She still does," he said. "She asked me this morning if love can start over. I told her yes, if it is real." Maya looked down at the paper heart, her thumb tracing its edges. "And do you still believe that?" "More than ever," he said. "But I also know love needs more than belief. It needs effort, honesty, patience." She looked up at him then. Really looked the man who had once hidden behind a lie, but had spent every day since trying to live in truth. "You kept your promise," she said. "You gave me time. And you gave me hope," he said. "Even when I did not deserve it." "You do now," she said softly. The world outside the café felt still, the noise of the city fading into something distant and gentle. Daniel reached across the table, his hand hesitating before she placed hers over it. It was the same touch as before, but now it carried the weight of forgiveness. "I am not asking for everything at once," he said. "Just a chance to walk beside you again. No secrets, no masks." "Then walk with me," she said, "one step at a time." He smiled, the kind of smile that came from deep within, a smile of peace, not triumph. "I can do that." They finished their coffee as the sky shifted from gold to violet. When they stepped outside, the streetlights flickered on, and the air carried the soft scent of rain. Lily waited down the block with her babysitter, holding a small drawing in her hands. When she saw them, she ran forward. "You came!" she shouted joyfully. Maya crouched down to meet her, and Lily handed her the drawing. It was of the 3 of them again under the same tree, the same sky, but this time with a house drawn in the background. Above it, in bright letters, she had written, "Home." Maya's voice caught as she whispered, "It is perfect." Daniel placed a hand on her shoulder. "She has your heart," he said. "And your courage?" she replied. Lily looked between them, her eyes wide and curious. "So are we a family now?" Daniel and Maya exchanged a look that said everything words could not. "We are something even better," Daniel said. "We are a team." "Team Hope," Lily declared proudly. Maya laughed through her tears. "Team Hope it is." As they walked down the street together, hand in hand, the city lights shimmered around them like stars finding their way home. There was no grand declaration, no dramatic ending, just three hearts learning. Slowly, but surely, that love built on truth was the kind that lasted. And as the cafe's lights faded in the distance, Daniel whispered quietly, "She let me sit at her table once. She had no idea she was giving me back my life." Maya heard him and smiled. "And now?" "Now," he said, squeezing her hand gently, "I just want to spend the rest of my life earning that seat." The night air was warm, the laughter of a child echoing between them, and for the first time, everything felt exactly as it should, real, honest, and home.